X-Men Age of Revelation officially comes out today. Now, if you're one of the people that don't know what's going on, this is a small event that is taking place 10 years into the future in Marvel Comics. Now, it's really centered around the X-Men. So this video is going to be explaining what you need to read, how you need to catch up, what current runs you should be reading. There's 16 different #1 issues or different comic book runs that you could read throughout this event. There's some Spider-Man stuff, there's Cloak and Dagger stuff, there's binary stuff. So there's a lot of different things you could read. But this video is going to be covering the basics and explaining what is exactly going on right now. If you're new here, please subscribe. And if you're watching, please like the video. But without further ado, let's talk about X-Men Age of Revelation. All right, so I would say the main things that you need to read right now is Uncanny X-Men, Rise of the Ashes, the current X-Men run, which is X-Men Volume 7. Issue number 22 specifically, that's what we'll be talking about today. The official X-Men Age of Revelation #1 came out last week, so we'll be talking about that as well. And we'll also be covering the Amazing X-Men that also came out today. I know it seems like a lot, but I promise we'll sum everything up. But let's talk about X-Men Volume 7, issue number 22 first. There's a lot to explain prior to this issue, but let's get to the basics first. So this right here is the important person you need to know. His name is Doug. And if you remember Doug in the Krakoan era, he was basically the one that developed the language for Krakoa to basically talk to each other and speak. That was like his mutant ability. But now he's basically became like a herald of Apocalypse. Apocalypse upgraded his power. He gave him the intent of what he wanted to do. And now he's basically a bad guy now. But as of right now, in this point in this issue, they know that he had something to do with Apocalypse and stuff like that. And that's what we're going to get into next. Doug travels a faraway distance just to meet Cyclops and his current X-Men group. And he basically is like, look, I want to join the X-Men. And Scott, of course, is like, what are you talking about? It's been a while. Is this Apocalypse who I'm speaking to? Or is this Doug Ramsey? And his response to Cyclops is, the answer is both. I am Doug Ramsey. Any squad with an X in the name, I've been on it. But I am also Revelation, the Herald of Apocalypse. And then he gets slick and says, after all, I'm here to see the Herald of Charles Xavier. Because everybody knows that Cyclops and Charles, that being his like favorite son in a sense, so they always tease him for that. And he's like, that's not funny. And then he said, come on, it is. And then Doug says, so my daddy's a bad, scary man, so is yours. Who cares? They're out of the picture, both of them. Neither of them is even on the planet anymore. The world is ours now. You're not Xavier, I'm not Apocalypse. We have what they never did, the opportunity to evolve their ideas and make them our own. To be better. And this at this point, Cyclops is considering it, okay, maybe he should be a part of the X-Men. And that's when Cyclops is like, okay, we'll all have a say in this. We'll all have a vote. Long story short, the majority decides to vote Doug into the X-Men. And right as they're about to shake on the situation, Cyclops has like this psychic attack as he thinks it is currently. And Doug's like, Scott, are you okay? What's happening? And he says, my head. He asks Quentin, who is an Omega level telepath, saying that he's having a psychic attack and to help him. And then Quentin is like, I'm scanning, but it's not a telepathic attack. He says it's like his whole brain is out of phase. The art is just so good here. But then this shows the half page of Cyclops 10 years into the future and Cyclops and where he is at now. So that wraps up the final issue of X-Men number 22. And this takes place right before the X-Men Age of Revelation Overture #1. So right now you can kind of see the situation that's going on, right? And this is taking place in current time as the current comics is going on. The event is going to be taking place 10 years into the future. But it's not the regular, oh, we're just doing a time skip thing like more than you think. That mind attack that Cyclops is feeling right now, there's actually people taking his mind from current day and bringing it into 10 years into the future, which I thought was very, very cool. So fast forward, Doug has pretty much already won at this point in time, and they are calling it the Revelation. He has converted a lot of the current X-Men group, a lot of the last remaining mutants, to basically be on his side and rule. And what's very interesting is if you remember this character right here, his name is Glob, and he is known to be like super quiet in the current X-Men run. He barely speaks at all. He barely has any screen time. But now he is like a completely different person as you can see him taking a shot at somebody in the bushes and saying, that's how you do it. And that kind of sets the tone for what the story is about to be about. So Cyclops wakes up and you can see Magneto, what he looks like 10 years into the future. And you can see next to him is Forge. And they explain, Cyclops says, what happened to me? And Magneto tries to talk to him and says, Scott, take a moment. I'm sure this is disorienting. And Cyclops immediately responds and says, you were an X, which means you're an X-Men. And I run the X-Men. So what's going on? Magneto responds and says, we brought your consciousness from 10 years ago into the body of your present day self. 10 years into your subjective future. And Cyclops says, which means things have gone very badly for us if you guys are doing this. And Squirtin' Child is here. So if you don't know who this is, I'll do a video about him later on. In current comics, he's a part of this 3K group, which was basically like made mutants. And they were meant to be their own version of X-Men, but kind of like a rival to the current X-Men. It's a long story. Cyclops and Magneto has a talk about what's going on, and he's trying to explain things to him. And they basically show the current state of what X-Men Age of Revelation has come to, and said this is what part of the United States of America looks like. Welcome to the Age of Revelation. And then right after that, we get our first moment with Doug and what he looks like now in his new look. And now he's simply resembling Apocalypse in a lot of ways. I really, really love this style and this art. And you could see his powers, right? We didn't get to talk about his upgrade because before I explained, like he had a way to communicate with Krakoa, and his powers definitely go way deeper than that. But with the Herald Apocalypse powers he can speak anything he wants to, and they do it. For example, is right here. Psylocke has an X figure, and she doesn't want to wear it because she left the X team a long time ago. But he said, X-Men, wear it. It serves as a reminder of your failure for all to see. And she says, no, I left the X behind a long time ago to serve you. I will not wear it again, not for anyone. And he says, wear it. And then she says, of course. And she puts it on. Whenever he has this dark tone here, they follow exactly what he says. And this is why this event is very interesting, because when you take place, you think, okay, 10 years into the future, what would mutants look like after everything that happened in Krakoa? So Magneto explains what's going on. He says 3K unleashed a mutative virus that either transformed the people it affected into mutants or killed them outright. And basically they called it a disease and that it was spreading, but Cyclops took this information like it didn't really matter to him, and he was just confused on why this was a problem. Cyclops says, okay, it's a tragedy. My math puts the dead at about millions, but what's to be done about it now? Because despite how we got here, this seems to be the best situation for mutants since Krakoa. Magneto looks at Cyclops disgusted, like, what are you saying? He says the Revelation has positioned himself as the mutant messiah or defender against the wounded United States. Cyclops again, he says, again, I don't see the problem. This is Doug we're talking about. He was always going to find a leadership role amongst our people. Magneto says the mutant land was built on genocide. This mutant land was also built upon a lie. It was Beast, our Beast, who discovered it. And he says, of course I did. And you see this future version of Beast right now. He's not blue anymore. He's like white and gray. He looks a lot older. But not only that, they brought Hank from the past, exactly where Cyclops was, which is technically our present. And they brought both of them back to the future as well because they needed both of their minds. Magneto gives him a really good compliment because Beast was like, what happened to my future's body? Like, where is he at now? And then he says he was overwritten. We needed the X-Men's greatest leader and the X-Men's greatest mind, which is Cyclops and Beast. He said, you and Scott have both been punished by Revelation. He used his power to strip all language from your minds and made them into babbles. And Scott is now in shock that Doug is pretty much evil, which we could see this coming from a mile away. But now Cyclops asks, well, what is the mission? Like, what are we going to be doing here moving forward? Magneto's art here is just so good. The way like his mask is just dark. Like they always love drawing him like that. But he says, as I told you, this land was built on genocide and a lie. Both must be paid for. We are going to kill Revelation and free this land from his influence. 3K did not create the X virus, and they did not release it. The deaths of millions are upon their tally. It was Revelation's doing. And then we have the future version of Quentin, and he's basically like a spy now, and he has other mutants that are on his team, and he communicates with them telepathically as they go spy on others for Revelation. It wasn't that too big of a detail. Some stuff about his wife here as well, where she basically betrayed him and saw that he was doing too much and trying to be too powerful. But this is the main part, right? This is the only thing that I really did not like about this comic. So Cyclops and the team now, they're running away because they're knowing they're being spied on. And mind you, Quentin contacted somebody and let them know that the X-Men are still here and they're like roaming around. So Cyclops is like, who is that after us? And he's like, Revelation's Angel of Death, his greatest assassin. And it shows like this shot and you could tell that it's Wolverine by his beard and he has a really new design now. And Magneto says, Scott, I am sorry. They stop. And Wolverine jumps out of the trees and they say he has Wolverine. And this is Wolverine's really cool new design now. And he's basically being used as a weapon again. I felt like this was very, very typical. Wolverine going back to being used as a weapon. Like, when is this not going to be the case? I didn't really like this that much. But what made it even worse, the next panel is that he kills Magneto. What are we doing? Glob shoots an attack at him. Of course, he's too quick and he dodges it. Forge, he goes to get something for him, and Wolverine kills Forge too. And I thought it was going to be like a thing where just like Magneto eventually gets up, because no way, this is how they use his characters into the future. And Cyclops is like, Magneto, Max, like, are you okay? And Angel's like, bro, focus. Like, we have to get on out of here. He's attacking again. And that's when Scorn is like, okay, I'm about to just sacrifice and get everybody up out of here. So if you don't know who this is, he has a black hole like in his mind, as you can see. And anything that basically touches him or goes through him, he can unleash this energy and get everybody trapped inside the black hole. And that's exactly what he does. The X-Men group runs away, but as you can see, Wolverine is not dead because he could take on anything at this point. I'm sorry I'm skipping over this, but if you need more information, I promise to explain this in another video. But Doug goes and finds his wife, and this was his wife that betrayed him earlier that was fighting Psylocke. He said, my love, so much has been sacrificed in the name of my mission, our mission. But those sacrifices were always made by others until now. Psylocke, of course, your doom note wouldn't leave a body. I don't know what I'm going to be doing without you, Belle. I know you think I betrayed the grand purpose, but everything I've done has been in pursuit of it, even this. Even sacrificing the one person in the world who means anything to me. I love you and I will never forget you. Now die. And he tells her to die. And because anything that he says people will do, she dies. That just shows how powerful and how menacing he is. And now we jump over to the first issue of the storyline, and that's going to be the Amazing X-Men. Now, this is the one that's going to be ongoing and have 4 issues, I think, come out in total for this event, but this is going to be coming out every single week. Now, this is where things kind of settle when you're in reality, that the 2 people that you brought into the future, they're just not the people that you guys know and that you guys been through everything with at this time. And Hank and Cyclops had this cool moment and realize it together. Cyclops is like, this is a nightmare. And Beast is like, it is at that, but it is a fascinating world we find ourselves in, Scott. Cyclops says, I'm glad you're here with me, Hank. I mean, I'm not glad that it happened to you too. Just that if I had to pick who I wanted at my side at this time. And Beast cuts him off and says, it would be Logan. I know, Scott, I feel the same way. But basically, like, I know you would rather have Wolverine here. And that's what, it was just so cool because we don't get to see Cyclops and Wolverine as a genuine duo enough. They're always like polar opposites or working together as a team. And Beast is like, it's good to be on the run with you once again. It brings back many happy memories because Beast used to be like with the group. Like he used to be more involved. And lately, the past couple of years, he's been a very, very weird character. He's had important roles, but now he's like an inside the man in the chair type of guy. I don't like how his character development has become, but that's just what it is. One of my favorite parts of this issue is that they're at the Grey Melkin prison. And they explain because there's so much dead here that it's insanely haunted. And this is where we get our first future look of Deathstream. And he looks exactly the same as he does. And if you don't know who Deathstream is, this is why I said it's important to read Uncanny X-Men, because he's a part of the Outliers group, where these kids run into Rogue's version of the X-Men, and Rogue takes them in, and now they're basically a part of the family. There's Deathstream, there's Ransom, who's my favorite current X-Men character. I'll do a whole different video on him later. And then there's Calico and Jitter, who are all just amazing characters at this point in time. I love how they're well written, but they don't get enough shine. I think the most people that get shine so far is definitely Deathstream and Ransom. But Deathstream is basically here, and Cyclops is like, I know you're one of Rogue's new kids, Deathstream. And he said, not so new anymore. But he said, but you look exactly the same. And he says, of course I do. And it's because Deathstream basically doesn't age because he's been already dead. But sadly, shortly after, everybody's on watch because they know Wolverine is coming back and they spot him. And at this point in time, they're looking for a teleporter that's at the station where they find most of their equipment again. Hank says that he noticed some of this stuff is his and some of this stuff is others, but they're basically looking for this teleporter. They let everybody know that Wolverine is here, and he's like, I've got this, just keep them away. And he's like, I don't know about that, but we'll try. Wolverine comes out of the bushes. Again, like I said, I feel like it's typical. Cyclops then asks Deathstream, get us a perimeter of your friends, assuming Logan can't kill them twice, which is the people that he was referring to as the Haunted. He can control the dead. His powers go more in depth than that. We just haven't been able to see him do much. Cyclops then asks Deathstream if he can give him like a perimeter with his ghosts, with his undead friends, to surround the place and attack Wolverine, assuming that Logan can't kill them twice. Wolverine then pops out and moves past everybody, and Jen is like, damn, I lost him. And Cyclops says, Deathstream, we're counting on you now. Deathstream says, I am not afraid of dying, Cyclops, but I am afraid of him. I've always been. And if you remember, Logan was basically the uncle of the group in Uncanny X-Men. He was one of the leaders. They looked at him like as a father or uncle figure in a sense. So they've been around him for years. And Cyclops says, focus, we need to get your ghost to be on alert for... And then it cuts to Wolverine slicing Deathstream's neck off.
It does end up giving Beast a little bit more time, and they were able to teleport, but they don't know where they teleported to. And basically, once they're asking, like, yo, where are we at right now? And their response was like, well, it looks nothing like Revelation. If anything, this looks like heaven. And a voice says, heaven, huh? That's a dirty word around here, Cyclops, but you should know that. Just like you should know not to enter my territory. These are my souls. This is my land, my providence, and everything and everyone in it. A colonial holding of Limbo and its queen, the Dark Child. And it shows Magic basically again getting overruled by the Dark Child. And look at Psylocke. She looks extremely disappointed. But that's how this issue ends. Look, I know that's a lot, and I know there's probably a lot of questions. So I'm really using this video to see what type of questions you have. And if not, I'll come up with some myself. I promise we'll go back and forth between the Uncanny series explaining who these guys are. We'll go back to the current X-Men run and explain what the events are leading up to this. But for now, this is Age of Revelation. There's 16 new books you can choose from, so there's a lot of options. But that's it for today, you guys. I'll see y'all in the next video.